Let's start IPv6 in-depth course. So why we are saying in-depth, actually, maybe I should say breadth, because when I talk about the network design, I explain this breadth and depth idea. So we will discuss a lot of topics in IPv6. Maybe not bit-byte level of details, but a lot of things and their interactions we will discuss. Now I will go through the course outline. It is, I think, 3, 4, or 5 pages. A lot of topics, as I told you, we will go through, and I will explain exactly what we will discuss. Little bit my explanations for the course outline goes into little bit technical detail as well, so it might be a little bit long. So, but this video will be sample video, so you will understand what we will go through and what is our methodology, so then you can decide whether this course is for you or not. Okay? So in the first place, obviously, we will discuss business drivers. So what are the use cases? Why people would go and deploy IPv6? Of course, from the enterprise as well as service provider, mobile operator, those people, multiple companies' point of view. Then some basics we will start, but these basics obviously will be our baseline. So IPv6 addressing, so unicast address, multicast address, no broadcast, obviously. So those kind of things we will discuss. Then what about address planning? So in IPv4, obviously there are some methodologies like how we can use some bits to identify maybe city codes, those kind of things. And in IPv6, since we have much larger space, we can encode more information. And those kind of things we will discuss. What should be the methodology again? We will not memorize anything in this course. Okay? And yeah, the biggest part of this course will be transition mechanisms. So how IPv4 and IPv6 together coexist. Okay, so it is not IPv6 only. We will discuss that one as a separate, obviously, but how IPv4 as well as IPv6 used together. Why we are using together? Obviously, IPv4 content will be with us for a long time. This course is around 2021. It will be published. So we don't know, maybe 2030, we will be still using IPv4. So that's why both v4 and v6 will be used together for quite long amount of time. So we need to understand then 3 different category of using v4 and v6 together: dual stack, tunneling, and translation. So first will be maybe the easiest one to explain, to understand, dual stack. So each one of those category, dual stack, tunneling, and translation, basically there are multiple things to learn. So you will hear in the industry that you should always use dual stack if you can, and if you must, tunneling, and if someone puts gun on your head, then translation, right? We will talk the reasons, and is this really applicable for every network? Obviously not. If you are dealing with network design for some time, you know each one has its own pros and cons, basically, advantages and disadvantages. Okay, so we will explain challenges with the dual stack. So if you don't have IPv4 public address, so you will not be able to do dual stack, but you will anyway deal with some network address translation there, and so on and so forth. Requirements with dual stack, basically what is dual stack and what are the things that's necessary for dual stack deployment. Okay, so it is not just networking devices we are talking here. CPE, we will explain what it is, networking devices, the applications, end-to-end, everywhere. So we will discuss this. And then, especially when I explain dual stack, I think without understanding happy eyeballs, it wouldn't be complete. So we will discuss what is eyeball. So user is eyeball, but how we can make those users happy. So we will discuss this basically implementations. It is deployed on the browser, it is deployed on the operating system, everywhere. Happy eyeball is a very important concept, especially when we discuss dual stack transition mechanism. As I told you, there are many more. So in the second part, we will go through the tunneling as a transition mechanism. So we have 3 different categories of tunneling guys. So three different manual tunnels, also known as configured tunnels. Then semi-automatic tunnels. So there we will discuss tunnel brokers and automatic tunnels. So these automatic tunnels, there are many of them, especially when it comes to automatic tunnels, like 64, 6/4, 6RD rapid deployment, IZTAP Teredo DS Lite. There are many others as well, but those IZTAP Teredo 6RD, especially DS Lite, these are commonly used ones. Some of them we will see that we carry IPv6 over IPv4, some of them IPv4 over IPv6 network, and so on and so forth. So we will understand at the end in which case, in which phase of our network, which one should be used. If our network completely IPv4 today, and let's say IPv6 user wants to reach the IPv6 internet, or IPv6 user wants to reach to IPv6 data center, what are the technologies, or totally different scenarios. We will discuss those, okay? We will understand in different scenarios which transition mechanism is best for us. Maybe semi-automatic tunnels is good for us. Or maybe manual tunnel, depends on scale, depends on some factors. Manual tunnels, configured tunnels will be good for us. So we will understand those tunneling mechanism there after dual stack. And when we finish the tunnels as a transition mechanisms, we will start discussing translation this time. So network address translation we will mostly deal with. NatPT we will discuss, which is deprecated now, but obviously there is a NAT64, DNS64. In real life, it's used commonly, and in many networking exams also, this one asked, like CCI, CCD, you might see this as a technology that we need to understand. And as a third topic, there will be CGN, or carrier grade net, known as LSN as well. In many networks, it's used as LSN, large scale NAT. Some research shows that more than 80% of the mobile operators are using CGN as their V6 transition mechanism. Okay, so that's why knowing, understanding CGN, the benefits, the problems, very important. Now, some experienced guys on IPv6 might think, why you said benefit of that? CGN, NAT, benefits. So no, it's like, for me, every technology comes with the benefits and also problems. And some of those benefits might be problem, can be seen as a problem for at the same time, in the same year, in some networks. So then maybe something is beneficial for you, not for my network. Okay, so it is always contextual. After that, also again, mobile operators uses heavily 464X NAT. So in public, you can also see a lot of deployments with 464X that I think Telstra they are using, Verizon they are using. So 464X NAT, CLAT, PLAT, combination of those two. We will discuss also that technology, how people are using it, what is the idea with it. We will discuss as another translation as transition mechanism, okay? Obviously, IPv6 deployment, IPv6 course wouldn't be without IPv6 routing protocols. Why? What we said, when we deploy IPv6, it will be end-to-end network-wide. So in the network, we have a layer 3, we have routing, so IGP, BGP. So that's why any of those IGP could be in your network, OSPF, ISAS as a link state protocols, and EIGRP as a distance vector protocol. We will discuss. BGP separately we will discuss, little bit maybe will be longer than others, because there are multiple things that we need to consider, we need to take into account when it comes to BGP with the IPv6. As I told you, from many different aspects we will cover. After routing protocol, we will discuss what about in MPLS network, because IPv6, obviously, when there is an MPLS, still will be used. So still, end site might be deploying IPv6. So let's say MPLS in the middle, and customer is using IPv6, and they want to access to internet, IPv6 content on the internet. So 6PE service we will discuss. If, let's say, customer is getting IPv6 service to connect there may be different VPN sites, then 6VPE service we will discuss how it works, what are the address families, necessary and those details. And obviously LDPv6, normally this 6PE, 6VPE doesn't require LDP to support IPv6, but there might be networks just working plain IPv6. So V6 only data centers like Facebook, right? So in their cases, if they would deploy MPLS, LDP, if it's the label distribution protocol with the MPLS, because there might be many of them, right? Segment routing, RSVP, etc. If LDP is there, then LDP version 6 is necessary for IPv6 only networks. Otherwise, if you have just IPv4 transport and you want to support MPLS VPN, of course you can, but in that case, LDP still can be LDP for IPv4. So still you can support 6PE and 6VPE service, but 6PE, 6VPE service you want, and then underlay transport is IPv6 only networks. LDP has to be for the, again, IPv6. That's why LDP v6 we have RFC75 v2. After we explain also IPv6 in the MPLS, we need to discuss again many aspects, quality of service with IPv6, multicast with IPv6, like MLD and those kind of things, PIM version 6, PIM for IPv6, I mean. IPv6 in the first top security, especially we need to discuss. We will go through, not enough, so still we continue. IPv6 in IoT networks, especially because you will hear even in the first slide, in our first technical discussion, yes, today Internet of Things is real. People are deploying it for millions of, or tens of millions of those sensors, actuators, those small maybe devices that they push IP in them and controlling via IP layer. So in this case, how IPv6 and IoT works together. So especially I will spend some time on Ripple, so routing over low power and lossy networks. So basically this is the most commonly used routing protocol with the IoT networks, within the IoT networks. Also, I discussed with one of the founders of Ripple, which is Pascal Tauber, on my YouTube channel as well, that I think around 1.5 hours, maybe 2 hours long video, we discussed this is one of the distance vector protocol, basically logic. It works, but supporting many different attributes, energy control, etc. We will discuss. So very important protocol, and understanding it in this IPv6 course content, I think was must. That's why we'll go through. What else? Segment routing can be done with the MPLS data plane as well as IPv6 data plane. So that's why we will go through segment routing with IPv6 as well. We call it SRv6. We will learn it together. And very commonly discussed, or very common discussions with IPv6, most of the discussions, will IPv6 replace IPv4, or when it is, if it will be replacing, does IPv6 really have better security compared to v4? Does IPv6 faster than v4? Will IPv6 reduce the NAT deployment? Especially, we discussed this a lot, right? So when we deploy IPv6, you don't have to deal with the NAT, are we? So we will talk there also. And also, really, is it running out? So IPv4 public space, obviously. So we have 5 global regional internet registries. So we will discuss if there is any one of them still can give you IPv4 public address, or what is the status now. Of course, throughout these lessons, we will discuss IPv4 transfer markets as well. So to extend the lifetime of IPv4, so without dealing maybe with the CGN, without dealing maybe with the IPv6, normally this is of course IPv6 course, but you need to know the alternatives as well, how you can extend the lifetime of the IPv4. So that's why marketplace, so how you can purchase IPv4 address of someone and use in your network. What are the conditions? What are the things that you need to take into account? For example, you need to make sure that IPs are not blacklisted, and those kind of things we will discuss. And obviously, key points at the end of this course, we will discuss what we learned in a summarized way. We will go through, and last but not least, I will go through many quiz questions. Okay, so question and answer types we will discuss, and we will verify whatever we learned, guys. So now next topic will be our first technical topic, which is the business drivers with the IPv6. Without further ado, let's jump in.